It's going live. Okay. And we're good. All right, perfect. Let me just have a quick check. Great. So, welcome back to another stream. We will discuss the high time frame perspectives across all markets, and we have actually been quite successful in calling price from all the way down from here, which is discount, your weekly fair value gap, and now price is pushed higher to the objective, right? So the stream has been going pretty well. The series is pretty well. So each week we build upon the previous week's price action. So in this case, dollar index, I did say that I'm leaning bearish, but unfortunately we didn't get that. But no issues because we still walked through our open, low, high, close, right? Your OHLC of each candle, and you know that there was no confirmation given for price to push lower. So we're all good there, right? So dollar index, let's begin with the stream, right? So dollar index has expanded higher. We've taken out previous week's high, and price is now really expanded through here, right? So what is my take on dollar index? Now, if you want to frame a high probability bias, now is not the time. And as I said this before, when price was here, 25th of May, the last week of May, we were bullish. It was a clear direction. Here as well, we have a weekly fair value gap. You're supposed to be bullish at these gaps and wait for price to take buy-side liquidity. Now, once price takes buy-side liquidity, your following weeks or days will be low probability in nature, right? Because price is going to follow an accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. So once the buy model or a buy cycle, you can call it whatever you want, has been fulfilled, price is going to now consolidate, right? It's going to take into perspective of expansion and consolidation. So we're probably going to get some form of consolidation here. So there is no high probability bias for dollar index, but overall, what I have called here on stream, price has reached its high time frame objective, right? So let's actually move to Euro USD. And this is what we did speak about in the previous week's stream, right? We were expecting price to reach the objective, right? I gave you the level 1.14110, right? There's no hindsight here. I'm not really making levels up. I'm really telling you exactly what I've built upon with the previous week's price action. So as of now, we have really tapped into the objective right here, which is your sell side liquidity pool, right? Now, this is your clear weekly sell model where price has expanded higher. We have really worked into this inversion and this volume imbalance here. Now, price has consolidated here for a while, right, into this volume imbalance and pushed lower, right? Now, just because we push lower into a weekly bullish fair value gap, it doesn't mean that we're heading lower, right? Price still needs to give us a confirmation, which was a closure through this candle right here, right? This candle right there, price is closed through it. That is your confirmation. We have a bearish weekly fair value gap. So the next week when price opens and taps into it, you are really bearish. It's quite clear as day. And your high probability bias will begin from here, right? All the way from here, from this fair value gap to this sell side liquidity, all right? That is when you are going to be risk on, right? You want to take positions during this time and avoid the low probability conditions here, right? So when you make money in trading, it is not really going to be where you just show up every single day, you know where price is going and you make money, right? You take a position, you just know it's either going to go up or down, quite simple, right? But not really. It doesn't work that way because you need to wait for high probability conditions. And these streams here, which I'm conducting on YouTube on a weekly basis, it's here to show you that you don't really need to use complicated concepts to determine which direction price is going in, right? I literally use highs and lows and fair value gaps, and that is all, right? And this is how you use it. And that's what I'm trying to show you, the real world application of just highs and lows. So, and of course, building a narrative as well, right? So price is really pushed lower, reach sell side liquidity. What are we going to do now? We're going to remain neutral, right? The weeks that follow after price is tapped into sell side liquidity, it is going to be low probability, all right? It is not going to be high probability. And why? Because price can do either of two things. So price can just retrace, let's say to cap this high. So we don't really take out this high because there's high resistance, and price is going to retrace to, let's say, premium of the range, right? That's one thing. The second thing is price can reverse, right? And probably target all of these highs, right? We just don't know at this point. Or price can just, in another case, push down low, right? Because when you see here, when the new week opens, what do we have? We have a bearish weekly fair value gap right here, all right? Which is exactly as this one right here. So price can open, which is going to be, because we closed all the way here, it needs to open here, push all the way higher here. That can be a week. In the following week, probably we'll take out this week's high, and then after that, we can just expand all the way lower, right? The question is, or the issue is at this point, you cannot determine what price is going to do at this point, right? There is no, or how do you say this? Like there is no clear direction in price, right? It's 50-50 at this time. You can't really expect price to expand higher. You can't expect it to expand lower, right? So you're kind of stuck in the middle at this point. So it is in your best interest to not push buttons when price is presented with low probability conditions, right? So the best one for you is, if it's going in your journal book, it's going to be when price takes or fulfills a buy model or a sell model to buy side liquidity or sell side liquidity, the following days or weeks is going to be low probability, all right? That is a low probability condition right there, right? So before we move to the next pair, what you do need to know is price has reached the objective, which I outlined in the previous week, right? So that is your Euro USD. Now let's move to GBP USD. We have the exact same thing here. See right there, how price really takes out the level I mentioned and gives you a nice reaction, all right? So you go to the daily time frame. See how beautiful this is. So we have a clear Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? So what does price do on Monday? Price taps into this daily fair value gap. We quite as well fill it. Now we have a clear Monday's low intact and previous week's low intact. And this forms form of low resistance, or sorry, LRLR, right? Low resistance liquidity runs. So which means the following day, we are more likely to be bearish, and price confirms that. And Wednesday right here, we expand through quite beautifully, taking out all of these lows into the objective outline, right? Now, once price has reached the objective outline, what does price do? We react off of it, right? And it's really quite easy, if I may say this, to figure out levels which you will get a good reaction from, right? It always is going to be some form of external liquidity, right? Price is definitely going to give you some sort of reaction from external liquidity, and at least a retracement, if not a reversal. And retracement is all you need to make money. And of course, whenever you have a clear defined fair value gap as well, right? So the same goes here. The objective which I outlined previous week in the live stream has been met successfully, right? So far in this live stream sessions, I have been quite patient with price and making sure that I show up every single week and show you how this works with clear gaps and highs and lows. So in this case, we have really pushed lower from a fair value gap to a low, right? That's basically all we have called out in price. But Euro USD, right there, objective has been met, right? So the stream is successful. The direction was clearly outlined and given to you. There is no hindsight, right? So Euro USD we're done, and we're done with GBP USD. We have reached the objective, done that as well. And my next objective for GU will be these lows, but we definitely need to wait here, right? So do remember that, because we've taken external, we can most probably retrace, consolidate, and then push lower or higher, right? But in this case, I am leaning bearish, which means we should consolidate, manipulate higher in some form of the other, and then expand lower, right? So that is where my bias stands with you. Great. So that is for your NASDAQ, and of course, I'm sorry, that is for your dollar index, Euro USD, and GBP USD. Everything has been outlined perfectly, right? Great. So let's move to NASDAQ now. Now, NASDAQ, we had these clearly good highs, all right? So what went wrong? Why did we not move to these highs, all right? So the first thing is we did have a nice annotation here where price had a change in state of delivery. We had SMT at these highs, price pushed lower, closed through, and we have a nice fair value gap as well, right? But I did mention there is an SMT divergence at these lows right there, which means that price is most likely going to give you a retracement, right? And it did, but it gave a rather aggressive one. And we also closed through this bearish fair value gap, right? So we tapped here on Wednesday, Thursday, and we also proved that price is most likely going to expand higher to these highs, all right? So what went wrong and how can you take advantage of this? So the first thing you need to know is the open high low close concept on the weekly candle, right? So what is that? You're waiting for Monday's opening price and you're trying to decode the weekly candle, right? So in this case, we have a weekly high and we have a weekly low, right? And this is your opening price. So in this case, what does price do? Price opens right here, expands higher first, right there. And as soon as it expands higher there, what does it do? It pushes all the way lower to this low, right? So how does this actually help you and what is the significance of it, all right? The significance is quite simple. Price has opened, pushed lower, right? So what does that mean? If you just consider your Monday, right? So what does that mean is we have a nice wick, right? You have a wick lower and price is pushed higher, right? But even the bodies here, what does it say? It says that price most likely wants to push higher, right? So where is it going to move higher to? This high, right? That's buy sell liquidity and here as well. So price doesn't really push through to that high, right? It kind of closes below this previous week's high and most likely weaker, right? There's not the reaction you kind of expect. You see on a Monday especially because price is moved higher, we have a large wick at the highs, large wick at the bottom, and we have a small body right there, right? Kind of calling an indecisive candle, but it doesn't really matter. That's not what we're doing here. But when you drop to the lower time frames, you can see that we do have fair value gaps, right? Bearish fair value gaps formed, which means based on this open high low close, what should we have? Price should push lower, take out Monday's low on Tuesday, right? And expand higher on Wednesday, right? This is what you would literally expect, right? But what did price do? This is your expectation for price to reach buy side. But what did price do? We opened and on Tuesday, we crashed all the way lower and also closing below this bearish fair value gap, this bullish volume imbalance all the way through, right? So then you need to shift your bias. But for now, you can wait, right? What is price doing next? You can see on Wednesday, we have really pushed lower, taken out this low, right? So that's what price did on Wednesday. So what's next? We have a nice bearish daily fair value gap, right? So daily fair value gap takes precedence over, I'm sorry, it's the wrong one. This is it. A daily fair value gap, a bearish one, especially since we have an established high, right? Price taken previous day's high on Monday, we have an established high of the week, which means on Thursday, which is right here when price taps into the gap, that is most likely going to be bearish, right? And if you do go on your lower time frames, you will see a nice setup form during New York session as well, right? So this is a really great way to shift your bias as well. So I am aware that this would not really been successful in the call for price to these highs, right? That is one of these situations where we cannot be right all the time, and I'm quite aware of it, but that doesn't mean we can't take advantage, right? As a trader, you should be really aware of situations when they pivot, and you need to pivot along with it, right? So daily fair value gap delivers lower to equal lows, right? Quite simple. And that is where we are at. So my bias for NASDAQ is going to remain neutral at this point because I do believe we will head into some form of consolidation, right? And I don't see price expanding higher or lower quite aggressively, right? Now let's move to ES, and the same thing goes here. We had clear defined objective. Price did close through here on Monday, but this was the previous week. But in the current Monday right here, you can see the price did not really want to push higher. We kind of closed through it, and Tuesday expanded lower. This doesn't mean we can actually move higher or lower. This candle right here really means that we're going to move lower, right? And we do have a closure here below this low. Price push it opens, taps it a bit in here, right here into this wick, and expands lower, right? So same goes here for ES. We're going to remain neutral and nothing more. So it should be quite clear. We will still keep our objectives there, right? So that's not an issue, but we'll see what price wants to do going forward. Now let's move to gold. And the objective on gold, all right, which I did outline in the previous week, has been fulfilled, right? Gold all the way from here on the live stream. You just check out the previous sessions. Really called it here all the way lower. And in the live stream sessions, which I do conduct inside my university, I called gold from this high right here. Okay, so we did call about 25%, I believe the drop is. The high is from 30%, but the drop which I called was from 25%. So a 25% drop all the way here. Yeah, close to 27 now if I consider this low, but I just consider this price point. It's about 25%, and price has reached the objective. All right. Once again, as I mentioned before, mentioning it here once again, it is just your highs and lows and daily fair value gap, right? Just for reference, you can see the chart right here. Fair value gap pushes lower, fair value gap pushes lower. All the live streams are recorded, they're live, and they have been posted on YouTube, right? You can definitely check that out. And this is just to show you that these concepts work, right? So price reached the objective, and what is my bias for gold now, right? Don't tweet at me and don't send me messages or comments asking me where is gold going now, right? Don't DM me asking that. Where is gold going now? You should ask me when it's going, when price was here, right? Which I told you clearly, it is bearish. Now you cannot frame a bias for gold. Why? Because we have fulfilled the sell model, right? The sell model has been fulfilled when price took out this low. It means that for now, your bias is going to be neutral, right? You're supposed to be bearish at these highs, here, all the way through here, right? Not when it has reached the objective. Okay, so for reference, I've called price from here and here in my university, but for you all on YouTube, I've been calling price from here, right? The move lower here, and you've seen it live day in and day out, and the objective has been met now. All right. So what is my bias for gold, right? You're still going to ask me. Moving forward, it is neutral, right? The objective and the entire point of these live stream sessions was to call gold live in front of you all to these lows, and I've been quite successful doing that. And I'm done with gold for now, especially on the live stream sessions, right? So we have really fulfilled the objective. That is done, right? Moving to silver. This was the objective I outlined in the previous week as well, all the way from this change in state of delivery to these lows, right? All the way there. Really, really precise and accurate, right? A 40% drop right here, but I believe the drop which I did call was for about 55%. And yeah, it's around 50%. All right, it was a 50% drop on silver. All right, that is really where I sold silver. And now we are here. All right. Now, if you're going to ask me, is it time to be bullish on silver? My personal opinion would be not yet. I believe there is consolidation to do. There is a lot of things for price to do before it continues a rally higher. But for now, remaining neutral is best. And don't forget that I call this move all the way from here to here in the live stream sessions. And if you want to hear my thought process when price was here, you can definitely go back to the previous live stream sessions and check them out. They're all on my YouTube channel, right? So that is silver, that is gold, called it quite successfully as well. So we're really good on dollar index, euro, GBP USD, that's Forex. This is gold and silver, quite successful here as well. And let's move to Bitcoin, right? And this is actually one of the best calls I did on YouTube as well, right? Which is price moving all the way from here to here, right? A nice drop on Bitcoin. Now, price has really done nothing else but returned into a bearish fair value gap, right? There. And what did price do after returning into a bearish fair value gap? It delivered lower to sell side liquidity. That is all that has happened, all right? Now, at this point, I'm more inclined to be bullish, right? That's my bias. I'm more inclined to be bullish, all right? But I don't have the confirmations yet for price to move higher, right? That's the issue. And of course, there are objectives low. right? At $50,000, which is where I believe price could get to, or let's say 55, just to round that up a bit. I do expect price to push lower. There are no clear levels, of course, but for now, because we've taken out sell side liquidity 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3. This is your 3-tier pattern, so price can most likely push higher, right? So to be careful of that. Or, as I mentioned, we have $50,000 here, which means it can push lower as well. What does this mean? Neutral. The bias is neutral and nothing else, right? Bias is going to be neutral right now. We are not going to force a trade into it. And probably the university will go around with the lower time frames. But for YouTube and for you all watching, what are you supposed to do when price takes sell side liquidity, and especially a 3-tier pattern? You most likely should be leaning bullish, but you're not going to take a total soup entry anyways, so you might as well wait. All right. So the bias for Bitcoin is, and the objective has been met as well since I began the live stream all the way from here to here, right? When everyone else was bullish. So the objective has been met. So there's no need to push buttons on Bitcoin anymore, right? So the bias for Bitcoin is going to be neutral. And moving to Ethereum, we have the exact same thing here. We have a bearish weekly fair value gap and price is delivering, right? But in this case, you can see we've not really taken out sell side liquidity, but I believe we should, right? And the draw for Ethereum was this level right there, which had the eye on at 1,742, which we have met. And as of now, I do believe we'll get to this level, right? Which is at 1,400, just to round that up. But let's see what Ethereum does, all right? I'm more inclined to be bearish on Ethereum than on Bitcoin, right? So let's see what happens. But for now, we can remain neutral on all pairs, on Ethereum and Bitcoin as well. So there is no reason to be either bullish or bearish, right? So that is it for the stream. We have really quite outdone ourselves in these live stream sessions. But do let me know if you have any questions. I will take them now and then I can end the stream, right? All right, I have a first question. All right, Binance, how do you withdraw from your bank? I cannot answer that. You definitely need to Google or talk to a financial expert or a tax professional. He'll be able to help you with that. Or you should probably text the support, all right? All right, the second question, it's the same thing for that, Mr. Aryan. I have no advice for you regarding that. And Weed Z101, all right, welcome back, Weed Z. Your analysis on USD GBY and USD CHF, right? We did kind of discuss this briefly in the previous week, and I believe it should be great. Right, USD CHF, I believe one of these pairs I did discuss the previous week. I'm not really able to remember that right away at the top of my head, but I believe we were bullish, right? And yeah, price is really expanding. And yeah, this is great. All right, the monthly time frame, right? I believe we've reached buy sell liquidity, right? And I'm not sure, don't really quote me on this. I'm not sure which exact high I was expecting price to get to or which pair it was. I'm not sure it was USD GPY or USD CHF, but we have reached buy sell liquidity on USD GPY, right? We go to the weekly time frame. Yeah, really just expanded through. Price has reached buy side liquidity, so I will really expect price to probably retrace, right? And as of now, I think neutral is the best way to go. I wouldn't say much because we have really tapped into this weekly fair value gap, expanded higher, taken out buy side here, and the higher time frame buy side, right? So liquidity has been taken out, so best to remain neutral at this point. For USD KPY, let me just have a look at USD CHF with a monthly time frame. And yeah, not any of this. Yeah, I believe we took out this high. I'm not really sure. I believe I did tell you that price wouldn't go here. I'm not sure. Right, price just tapped into a weekly fair value gap and pushed higher, right? That's really what it's done. So yeah, that's what it is, right? So no resistance all the way here, so price is delivered higher. That's all it is. I do believe we can be bearish on USD CHF, but not really on the USD JPY, right? All right, guys. So that is it for the stream. And thank you all for joining. And if you have any questions, do let me know in the comments below and I will answer them when I can. And I shall speak to you all once again in the next week. I believe most of the objectives have been met. So I'll probably start a new series moving forward from next week on YouTube. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on anything. All right. So that is it for the stream. Hope you all had a great weekend and we can't wait for Monday, right? Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.